In this video, we're going to create this artwork in Photoshop. Alright, let's get started. Let's create a new file. The size 1080 by 1080. And now let's open the first image we're going to use in this tutorial. Okay, you can find the link to this image as well as the rest of the image that we're going to use in this tutorial in the link in the description below. Okay, the first thing to do, I would like to fix the contrast of this image. I'm going to Image, Auto Contrast, and then let's remove the background. I'm going to use Object Selection Tool. If you don't have, you can just use Pen Tool or Lasso Tool just to make the selection like this, and then go to Select and Mask. I need to fix some edges here. As you can see there, I'm going to fix that radius up and smooth as well as contrast, and then output that into layer mask. Great. I'm going to apply the layer mask. I don't need the background, so let's bring this into our main document here. Press Ctrl T to scale this down and place it somewhere like this one. Okay, now let's work on the second image. That is image of a tree, this one. Remove the background too. First thing first, I'd like to crop this, so it will make our selection process a bit easier. Now let's go to Select, Color Range. So click on this icon with plus, and then select only the sky for a while. And as you can see here, make the sky background to be completely white like this one. And I think we're good to go. Hit OK. Now the selection is active for the sky. Let's invert that. Go to Select and Inverse. Now the selection is active for the tree. Okay, next we go to Select and Mask to fix some edges here, which is really ugly right now. To fix that, use Radius, and it looks better. I think that's great. I output that into layer mask. Hit OK and apply layer mask. We don't need the sky background anymore. Now let's bring this into our main document here. Let's rename this first tree and this one hand. Let's go back to tree layer. Let's scale this down. I'm going to put that I think here. Same for the hand. Alright, for the next part, let's create the water effects. So let's create a new layer. Name it water. And grab lasso tool. Let's draw shape something like this one. Okay, and then go here, solid color, and pick this color. Now what we're going to do next is to define the foreground of this supposed to be a lake, something like this one. This is the foreground and this is the background. What we need to do is to divide the soil here into two. So let's hide this for a while and select lasso tool again, or you can use pen tool if you feel a bit uncomfortable to use lasso tool for selection. Alright, let's complete the selection and then go to here, layer mask icon, and press Alt and click here. So you hide this selection and then duplicate this layer, press Alt again and drag this down and go here on the layer mask, press Ctrl I on your keyboard to restore the selection. So this is going to be the background. And now let's enable the water again and drag this down here. And as you can see now, the lake is started taking a shape. Let's select the background and move the soil about here. Or you can also scale this down. Scale this down again, and we need to add here. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, press Alt and drag down, and I'm going to apply the layer mask. And anyway, I'm going to clear this hand first. So I'm going to select this by using lasso tool, and only select this part, and grab layer mask and apply layer mask. I just want to make this smaller like this one without the hands, because we absolutely no need for that for this case. So I'm going to scale this down and adjust the position, something like this. I'm going to tidy these things a bit. I'm going to delete that. Yeah, I think it looks good. And I think I'd like to modify the shape a bit here. And I'm going to delete that. Yeah, I think it's better. Okay, next we can modify the shape of these legs, because this time it looks way too straight, looks so unnatural. At least we're going to make a bit more natural looking, like this one. So what we're going to do is to modify the layer mask here. So let's grab lasso tool again and draw something like this. And with this color black, and don't forget, make sure this layer mask is selected, press Ctrl Delete. So you add some kind of cape here. And let's add more, maybe here, maybe here, and here. Yeah, you can add any way you want, because this is really up to your imagination. Oh, sorry, I mispressed the keyboard. And if you want to extend, maybe add extra water area here, simply do the same. So this is going to be filled with water, so instead of black, use white. Okay, for the next part, let's add some grass on the soil, just like I did here. Actually, we're going to use this. You can find this image in the link below too. Open up in Photoshop and select this green vegetation. I'm going to use quick selection tool and select only, wait a minute, and select only this part. Okay, and actually I don't need this, so I'm going to pick this tool and erase that part. Okay, looking good. Now go to select and mask, or go here, select and mask, and we need to remove this blue, so I'm going to use this one, refine edge brush, scale the size up, or right click to scale this up. I think it's way too big. Okay, it's looking good. Now output that into layer mask. Great. Next, apply layer mask, and now bring this into our main document here. Yeah, it's pretty big. Let's rename it as a grass, even though it's not really a grass, and put it on the top of this hand layer, and then scale this down. Maybe like this. Next, we're going to make this grow randomly on the soil, just like here. We're going to need a brush tool, but before that, we're going to hide this for a while. I'm going to click on this layer mask icon and press Alt to hide this for a while. Now let's grab brush tool, right click the brush tool, and you can find this brush. If you don't have this brush, you can access it from here, legacy brush, and you can find this brush and modify the shape of this brush. Access from here or press F5, and for shape dynamic, size jitter goes up a bit and angle jitter as well. Now let's apply here So make sure it's active and the color is white, and click on the layer mask of the grass. The opacity could be around 20 or 30, and let's just apply it to see the effects. I need to scale this down a bit, and as you can see, the grass gradually grows here as you apply it. If you want a bit intense effects, just crank up the opacity slider. Okay, you can also apply this grass on here. Simply duplicate this, press Alt and drag this down here, and drag this up. Or you can just delete layer mask. You can scale this down first. And I think you may need to create a clipping mask for this. So press Alt on between grass and hand layer. Okay, so it's applied only on here. Now let's create another layer mask and press Alt here. And we will use the same technique that we did here. So grab brush tool, color is white, the opacity around this value, and paint on this layer mask. And if you want to reduce this, you can simply select black color for this, and you can erase this gradually as well. And for here, it's just the same. Simply just drag this down to duplicate that and disable the layer mask, delete layer mask, and create another. Or I need to clip this first, press Alt between this layer, and maybe I'd like to scale this down. And then press Alt while clicking on this layer mask icon to make a black layer mask to hide the grass temporarily, and grab brush tool, white color, opacity the same, and just paint again. Next, let's create the reflection effects on the water to make the water a bit more realistic looking. To do that, we're going to duplicate this background soil as well as with the grass, which is this layer, I guess. Yes. So let's select this layer first. Select the top layer and press Shift while clicking on this layer. Press Ctrl J to duplicate that. While the selection is still active, press Ctrl E to merge this together. Let's see, yes, that's it. And then right click on this, convert to smart object. And let's rename this as reflection. And bring this above the water layer. And create a clipping mask, press Alt here. And Ctrl T, flip vertical, right click, flip vertical. And now you can see the reflections now. Press Shift while you're dragging this down so it doesn't went aside, so just going up and down. Now you can see the reflection here and there. Next, we need to reduce these mirror effects because in real life the water reflection doesn't really work that way. We need to add some water color here, so grab layer mask and grab brush tool, make sure the color is black, and now right click. We're going to select a simple brush, this one, hardness 0, and the size around here, and the opacity I think just around 20 something. I'll just paint on here. Okay, now let's add some blur effects on this reflection. Go to filter, blur, motion blur. I think the distance could be less. Yeah, I think that's great. And then let's add another blur, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. The value around 0.5. Let's give it a try. I think this looks better. I'm going to modify more for the reflection mask here. So I'm going to add more over here. I'm going to grab brush tool again. The color this time is white. Opacity, yes, around that value, then 27, and just apply it more. Okay. One more effects for this reflection. I think we need some shadow. Yeah, because this time it looks like the soil on the background just flying over the lake. So we need a shadow to make it more attached. So let's create a new layer, shadow, and grab brush tool again. The size is going to be pretty small, 3 pixels maybe, and the color much darker like this one. And we need to zoom a bit. Let's go back to brush tool, press B or click here. And now let's apply a shadow. Now you can see the difference. Yeah, I think this one looks better. Okay, for the next part, I'm going to add the background for this image. So let's go to the bottom layer, this one, and then drag the background image and place it right like this one. Now let's add more sky here by creating new layer, sky, and go to here and select this color, hit OK, and then let's grab brush tool, right click on your brush tool, and I'm going to paint. I think the opacity could be much higher, and paint like this one, just to extend the sky. And to make a better transition, let's select this color too, and make the opacity a bit lower, and paint this back just to make a better transition. Yeah, I think it's looking good. Now we have a problem here on this hand. This dark lines is really unnecessary, so let's go fix that. Let's select this, okay, this one, this hand layer. Let's create new layer, lighting, because we're going to fix the lighting on the surface, and make a clipping mask by pressing Alt. And now grab brush tool and select this color, hit OK, and then the opacity, I think that's fine. I'll simply apply it to this line, dark lines, just to remove that or to hide that with this color. Now I think it's better. I think this one needs this treatment as well, so I'm going to this paint over here. Yeah, I think it now looks better. Let's see the difference. Maybe here too. Okay, that's just a very small detail. And I think I forgot this one. The trees will not be here because the wood here looks really ugly. Let's hide that. Let's put it behind this hand. Yeah, that looks better. Or I would like to adjust the position. There's some ugly. Okay, I'm going to fix this for a while. Just select lasso tool, press L, and select this, and press delete, because we don't need those. Okay, now let's add the crystal ball. So let's open the stock image. Let's zoom in, let's select this crystal ball. I'm going to use elliptical marquee tool, and press shift while dragging this tool to make a perfect circle like this one, and adjust the position to make it fit into this crystal ball. And you can also modify the transformation by going to select transform selection and adjust the selection. I think I'd like to apply a bit feather. 1 pixel is enough. Now let's copy this, Control C on your keyboard and Control V here to paste that. Let's rename this first as crystal ball. I think I need to turn down the opacity a bit to see what's inside, and then Control T to modify the scale of this ball. I think that's great. Now we need to cut this part because it's supposed to be the fingers is on the front of this crystal ball. So let's create layer mask and then choose pen tool. Let's turn down the opacity a bit more to see better view of this finger. Okay, let's bring back the opacity up. And now turn this into selection, Control Enter. And I'm going to make this black, Control Delete. And maybe here too. Yeah, just a little bit detail. Okay. I think I need to blur this a bit. So grab the blur tool and blur the selection or the masking just a bit to make it a bit more natural. Okay, I think it looks great. Now let's bring back the opacity to 100%. I think I got problem here because the sun is supposed to be on the right side while the reflection on this crystal ball is on the left. So we need to flip this, but for that let's disable the link first. Okay, and then click on this layer mask, this layer, crystal ball layer, and hit Control T, right click on it, flip horizontal. Now put the link back, and then now we're going to create the transparency of this crystal ball just like here. But the problem is we already have this layer mask. So to solve this, I will use this group folder and put the crystal ball here. Now you can add another layer mask. So we have 2 layer masks for this crystal ball. Okay, now let's grab brush tool and make the color black, and then right click. Okay, now let's select this kind of brush and erase this. Okay, now you start see the inside. Okay, I'm going to rename this for a while crystal ball again. Okay, before we go any further, I think I'd like to scale down the tree. I'm going to right click and select the tree and scale this down. I think the tree is way too big just now. Okay, this one looks better. Let's go back to this crystal ball layer. I'm going to add a bit more reflection effects on this crystal ball. So I'm going to go to effects and add inner shadow. Well, as you can see, the effects already apply because I already set this effects before. Okay, the blend mode is color dodge, and the color is blue, just like the sky, or yeah, just nearly like the sky color. And then the angle is where the sun's coming from. It's supposed to be from this angle, 40 something. If it's way too intense, you can just turn down the opacity, so you can see the effects. The size, it's really self-explanatory, is the glowing effects. And then I would like to add gradient overlay to add some luminance effects on this crystal ball. The blend mode is lighten. You can try screen, but I think lighten works best for me. the opacity around here. It defines the intensity of the color, and obviously this is the color. I like this color combination, or you can try the other color combination. And the style, I think reflected works best for me. You can play around with the settings, and I'm happy with these settings. I press OK here. You can also add some lives on this small world. For example, add a deer, just like I do here. So let's remove the background. I'm going to make this quick. And I'm going to apply, copy here. Select the grass. I think it will be here. Control T and scale this down because this deer image is way too big. I think that's a mistake here. I think it's not going to be really visible. Yeah, looking good. I'm going to add the lighting of this deer. I'm going to make it a bit darker. I'm going to use curve. Yeah, looking good. And as for these flying leaves, actually we need another stock image, which is here. Remove the background. Copy it and bring it here. Okay, pretty big. Going to scale this down. And even pretty small, like this one. And I'm going to rename this first leaf. Going to scale this down more. Now I'd like to edit the lighting first because it looks so flat. I'm going to use dodge tool and paint over on one side of this to make the color a bit more gradient, like this one. And maybe hit Ctrl U to edit the hue of this. Yeah. And then you can duplicate these leaves. And I have a tip for you. If you duplicate a lot of similar element like this one, I'm not going to duplicate the layer, which is creating extra layer and could make your Photoshop run slower. I'm going to use lasso tool to select the leaf first, and then move tool. And while the move tool is active, press Alt to duplicate it. And with this state, you can also modify this shape, the rotation, the scale, and while the selection is selective, you can duplicate again by pressing Alt and drag this somewhere. And you can rotate again, even scale this down more. And if you want to select this, simply choose the lasso tool again and make sure this mode is active. And you can select here, just move again, move tool, press V on your keyboard or access from here and press Alt. So you create another copy of the leaves in the same layer. You can Control T to scale down and rotate. Okay, I think it looks great. Alright, basically that's it for the tutorial. And if you want to add more details, like adding some more animals over here or more details, or changing the effects, you can always do that. Now let's create the final tone for this artwork. And we're going to use filter called camera raw filter. And we need to make this into one layer. If you're using artboard like me, you can just right click on this artwork and convert to smart object. If you don't, you simply select all the layer by going here, select all layers and right click, convert to smart object. It's the same effects. Okay, and don't worry. If you want to edit this artwork again, just simply double click here and you'll be brought here. And when you're done editing, you can simply save it. Don't save as, just save and then close this, and any updates will be updated here too, so it's quite handy. Now let's go to filter, camera raw filter. First thing first, I'd like to change the color of this hand because it's way too saturated. I'm going to desaturate that a bit. So I'm going to color mixer, go for the saturation tab and drag down the red, oranges and the yellow here. And then you can add some vignette, just like that, or a bit more grain to add some noise. You can also play around with this split toning. For example, I'd like to make the highlights a bit bluish like this one, and the shadow goes a bit orangish, so we're making some kind of teal and orange color tone. You can play around on the settings. Well, it's really up to you anyway. You can also play around with the color mixers, maybe change the sky color, go for hue and just play around with the sliders here. Well, that's it for the tutorial. If you have any question, just leave a comments in the box below. Until then, see you in the next tutorial.